Afternoon. Good afternoon. This meeting is a second of three quick workshops just to get information from the public. It's not really putting out any additional information. If you look at the recording from yesterday, we had about a half an hour meeting and we covered several items that were covered in a couple of community meetings that we had with non-profits, small business, and with some community members. So yesterday we had several members of the community and the chamber and EDC that spoke about a few different items that they would like to see. And so this is just a chance to receive feedback on the the ARP. I always want to call it American Recovery, and then you got American Rescue. So it's about our opportunity with the $16.7 million that the city received, in which we've spent some already. But again, it's just to receive feedback as we begin to create committees for this money and how we want to distribute it. I know that several council members, including myself, I know we have Councilman Privilinski here, have talked about having and identifying a process to allocate money, whether it's an application process, another agency, or a committee of some sort, but we know that we need to get there. So with that being said, I'm not going to go over. Yesterday, I read several of the inputs we received, and it's in a document. If you want it, you can get it from the clerk's office, or you can have it emailed to you and I can send it to you. Either way, you can have it electronically or a physical copy from the clerk's office. So with that being said, I know we have a couple of people here. Chris Pate, the executive director of United Way. I know that you weren't able to attend yesterday, so I would like to give you an opportunity to provide some feedback or inputs that you would like to see with that money.
So I'd like to just start by talking a little bit about what we've been doing through COVID to bring everybody up to date a little bit. United Way raised $1.5 million that was specifically for COVID relief. About $1 million of that came from the Indiana United Ways that had a Lilly grant that provided that funding. And then we raised about $250,000 in the community from gifts and donations from businesses and just the common citizens who cared about what was going on and wanted to help. And then we had about another $250,000 from the Morgan Family Foundation, who were very generous in helping, especially with food distributions and that sort of thing. So United Way is very well versed in how to not only raise money, but get money out quickly to the places that it needs to go. And so we were able to provide significant funding right away to our schools to assist them with virtual learning, to make sure that they had hotspots and Chromebooks and computers and different types of needs for people with disabilities and that sort of thing, to keep that sort of thing going. We've put a lot of money into food giveaways that have gone on about every month since the pandemic started. One of the things that I think is most exciting is about $56,000 just in capacity building for food pantries and organizations that give away food. So that money went into purchasing refrigerators and freezers for fresh and frozen food to be stored, which was a real problem in the past because they'd get donations and actually have to turn them away because they didn't have a way to store the food. Money has gone into childcare, especially for essential workers, and keeping our childcare centers open and running and providing them with assistance to be able to do that. So another area that we've worked with a lot, and I think maybe we'll talk a little more about this later, but is mental health and getting some funding to help with the mental health needs that are going on right now, which have been really significant. So if you can let me know when you want me to talk a little bit more about that later, but we've put so far probably about $250,000 into just mental health supports. Some of that has been, and actually it's probably been a lot more than that, but some of that has been for the Youth Wellness Court. That is a way to help kids who get in trouble, who really shouldn't be in the juvenile justice system. They need some mental health services, and so we're able to assist them and get them out that way. A lot of work going on through our system of care. United Way oversees the system of care for the state of Indiana here in LaPorte County, and we work on access for youth to get mental health care, reducing stigma, educating the public about how to get help, and also advocacy. This is such a huge issue. And again, like I said, I'd like to maybe talk a little more about that later, but.
Can I ask you just a question?
Sure.
So the supports, so is that money running out, or so what is?
So we're done. I mean, United Way is, of that 1.5 million, it's gone. As a matter of fact, I was looking at the numbers yesterday, and we even used a little more than that. So I have to figure that out in the budget. But in any event, yes, that money is gone. It's been allocated to the places that it was supposed to go to, but it went out quickly. We had 2 grants from the Indiana United Way. First one was for $625,000. We had that spent within 6 months. All that money was out doing the work that it needed to be doing, and it started going out right away. Like I said, this is probably one of United Way's greatest strong suits, to raise the funds, to get it where it needs to go by using local people who care about the issues and who are educated about the issues to make decisions about this funding. And then we're able to track the outcomes through our software. So if we can be of any help in that regard, we're always willing to help. It's what we do. Let me see. I think the other thing I want to say is we've engaged the faith community through this time. And there's been close to $100,000 that's gone out just to the faith community alone to help them with, again, around the mental health issues, mentoring programs, not only for youth, for adults transitioning out of prison. So a lot of the strengthening work that they need to do. Plus, we've coordinated with Swanson Center to come in and do presentations right there in the church, again, to reduce that that fear kind of reaching out to mental health sometimes, and to help people understand a little bit more about what's going on and how to get help and that sort of thing. And lastly on that, I'll say December 9th, we have a woman by the name of Lois Hall who works with grief recovery. She is a trainer of the grief recovery method. And we're going to do a Zoom with her on December 9th from 9 to 11. And if anybody wants to register for that session, I highly recommend it. I've been through it myself twice, and I think it's amazing. It isn't just grief around death, although, of course, that's a huge issue, but also grief around all we've lost through COVID. We know that our suicide rates have doubled, and at least, and that people are still really struggling. I just heard from the president of Franciscan Hospital this morning that so many more of their patients now have mental health crisis situations on top of whatever else they're in the hospital for. So again, you want to talk a little bit more about mental health later, but that's kind of an update on the basics of what's been going on with United Way and just ways that we've been able to help. We know our agencies continue to struggle with staffing. That's always a huge need. And but they're amazing out there just throughout this whole time, doing whatever they had to do, you know, for our kids and for our families to keep things going. So
before you sit down, one
Yeah.
last thing. With
Yeah.
daycare, how did you help with daycare?
So we gave some funds to both the Y and to Imagination Station to pay for childcare, especially for essential workers during COVID. But we also fund them all the time, but we gave them additional money, especially for things like training. And you know, they had some issues during COVID where they struggled to keep the doors open because there's times when they can't bill if they're not seeing children. And so we gave them some money to help them get through that period until they could get back to having children in their facility so they didn't lose all their staff.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I want to connect you to Mary Dudley Hervey. She trying to put some daycares together to talk about some stuff that they need.
Okay.
So I'll connect you to her.
Great, Angie. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. I think I see Kenny Fly on. Did you have anything that you would like to add about what you would like to see with this ARP money?
Hi, Angie. My name is Kenneth Fly of High Youth Services. And as of now, I'm being a vivid listener right now. I haven't had my thoughts all gathered up in preparation for this meeting. So I kind of doing it as an educational thing for me right now.
All right. I didn't know if you had any suggestions for after school programming or anything like that.
Oh, yes. Of course, that's something that we're doing as actually right now. We kind of got on the ball and getting this thing going because it took some time to get everything in place, and also with the COVID situations, making sure we was following all the guidelines and stipulations with that. So within the next month or so, we'll be full blast with our after school programming and mentoring. We will be located at the Hope Agency building on the Old Park School on the west side, and also at the Lakeland Community Center and Lakeland Estates. And those two areas are areas where a lot of less fortunate kids and parents that's kind of struggling. You know, it's a lot of financial crisis right around them areas. So I think we'll be of great help in them areas. And so far as funding, you know, we kind of just tapping along like everyone else and trying to see what's there and what's available. And we're just trying to hang in there, Angie, you know.
All right. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Miss Angie.
All right. We're going to beat our record for yesterday. Any other comments from the public? I don't see anybody else. These are recorded specifically so that people can go back and review them or place notes or comments on the My Michigan City Facebook page so that the council members and the administration can go back and receive any feedback that we're receiving. I know there was a survey sent out earlier this year, but I know it was a lot of open-ended, so we weren't really able to put together a actual overview that had like data analysis to it. So I know there's still been, quite a few people who did submit. So I just want to acknowledge the fact that people did do that. So anything from Councilman Koblinski? Good. All right. Anybody else? All right. Anybody else from the public? Anything else?
I have two other issues, but I wanted to let this gentleman.
All right, come on
because
up.
I didn't want to hog everything.
You don't want to hog the time.
No.
All right.
Good morning, good afternoon, Angie. Thank you very much. It's a wonderful opportunity, I think, with the ARP loan or commitment, whatever you want to call it. It's a wonderful opportunity for our city and our community And of course, with the charitable organizations and nonprofits, it's always wonderful to take care of them because of the great job that they do for everyone. But on behalf of small businesses and medium-sized businesses in Michigan City, COVID was such a devastating thing to all of us, but it's brought new problems and new, challenges for smaller and medium-sized businesses, mainly in employment and employment retention. And then the last 2 years, just basically treading water was a good thing for many of the companies. So I would just respectfully ask that some of the funds could be maybe used for smaller to medium-sized businesses like ourselves and many of the other wonderful businesses in Michigan City to help, compete against the larger companies that have unlimited funds. And this could be used in new equipment, perhaps, which would be very beneficial to upgrade, either equipment or software or whatever the programs might be. And also, more importantly, employee retention, employees themselves who are all struggling now, particularly when you see the wages that are being paid for menial jobs. And then you have skilled workers like we do, who you have to obviously increase their wages just to kind of, stay in tune with everything else. So those are the challenges we have. And if there are any funds available, I'm sure everyone would be very appreciative of being considered for them.
Oh, thank you. Well, I will say that in most of the plans that I've seen, just in Indiana, they do have a special allocation for small business. And you hit on all of the same things that the Small Business Council from the Chamber suggested. They suggested overhead. They said that overhead charges actually stayed the same or went up, but you receive less revenue. So they would like to see retention and sign-on bonuses because they can't compete on the wages.
Right.
That was one of the things. The other thing was updates to equipment. So in technology, we weren't ready for all the online stuff. And then just most of it was all around retention and establishing and making sure that there was additional money. So I duly noted. And hopefully the council members are listening and the administration, because I think we have until 2026 to spend it, but I think there's some priority items that need to happen sooner than later. So hopefully with small business in the wintertime coming, that's something we'll think about. So I appreciate you coming up and saying those things.
Well, thanks. And the council and the city has always been very supportive of the community here, the business community. And it's just another example of you reaching out and trying to touch with folks like ourselves and give us a voice in this situation. So it's very appreciative of it. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Ms. Pate.
Oh, go ahead with that.
All right. Mr. Fly?
Yes, I was sitting here and I did have one special thing that I think is need to be noted is usually when there's funds available, usually the big organization, nonprofit organizations, unfortunately, they somewhat tie up all of the money in the funds. And so I want to see if you guys are, when you think about these things, that you can have a special allocation for some of the smaller nonprofits, because after the big nonprofits get towards the money that do become available, it's always used up, and there's nothing left for us out here that's somewhat smaller and trying to get a foothold. And so I want to keep in mind that organizations that's coming for large amounts of money, if it could be some kind of way, some monies be left for the smaller organizations, because even though we're smaller, we usually do the most work that's hands-on out there in the community, in the inner city community. And we just deal with fundraisers and people that want to donate. But when it comes to applying for money through, big places that's giving it out, we usually get looked around because they figure we're not big enough and we're not doing enough and all of those things, but not recognizing we're actually out there pitting in.
Thank you for that. That did come up in a couple of the other meetings, Mr. Fly. One of the things that was said is that newer nonprofits are struggling. Government funding restrictions from the state and feds for newly formed organizations. So I think moving forward, that'll be something that the committee will take into consideration. So I appreciate those comments.
Thank you.
All right, Mrs. Pate.
Thank you. So when I first spoke, I was talking about kind of what's happened so far, but now to talk about going forward, as I said, our funding has been exhausted and there are, I would say, 3 major areas of concern for us at United Way and with our, not only our United Way community, but we've worked very closely with other funders throughout this period of time on some of these projects. So one of them would be pre-K. And there is a need for free pre-K in LaPorte County. I think there may have been a time when we had something like that. The money that's invested in pre-K, I think it's like $7 on a dollar. At least within the last year or two, that was the number I would hear in the investment that would make. It helps employers down the line. It helps in the schools as the children are going through the schools. It's just good for the kids themselves. So I would really promote that. At United Way for the past at least 10 years, maybe 11 now, we've been offering these kindergarten countdown camps. And we have to raise the money every year to provide these. But we do 4 weeks of kindergarten in the summer before the kids go to school. And we target kids who've never had preschool. And the teachers tell us that it's night and day on the kids who get to go through kindergarten countdown. And I always say, we know that we have little children starting kindergarten on the first day who can read and write, and they've had all kinds of wonderful experiences. We have children sitting right next to them that have never opened a book or held a pencil. And that personally, that breaks my heart. Because that means that child, I always get upset when I talk about this, but that child starts kindergarten thinking there's something wrong with them, that they're not as smart as the other kids. That should not be happening. These children who need pre-K and can't afford maybe some of the other services out there, it should be provided for them. They shouldn't be starting school feeling like they're less than other children. So one thing I also learned, I am a Strosacker Fellow through Purdue Northwest for early childhood. One of the things I learned that really stuck with me is that when there is a gap at the beginning of school time between children's abilities and their learning, when there's a gap, that as they go through school, they both learn, the group that's doing well and the group that's behind, but the gap never changes. Again, what a huge point. We have to give them a better start. So that's number one, pre-K. Another thing is housing supports. Throughout this period of COVID, the Unity Foundation, United Way, the Healthcare Foundation, Duneland Health Council, we worked very closely. We met weekly, trying to make sure that the not-for-profits in the area were being supported and that we were trying to get help out quickly to those who needed it. And we partnered with the trustees and we did a match on their trustee money. And I will tell you, they're out of money and we're out of money. At this point, Unity Foundation has a little bit of money and they're stepping up now to the plate to try to help. But once they've given that out to the trustees, it's gone. And so when people come and they're calling their trustee as a last resort to get some help with rent or utilities or some basic need, it's not going to be long before they're going to hear, sorry, the money's all gone. So this isn't going away quickly, and this should be something that gets addressed in the plan. Not only the basic housing supports, but also affordable housing, as we all know. And Unity Foundation has done the study of vibrant communities. There's a lot of great information in there that should be woven into this plan. And the last one, just to say a little bit more about mental health, we need a facility for inpatient care. There isn't one around here. When we meet with the system of care and we talk about the children, they're getting sent to Pennsylvania to get help. And they're able to help them in Pennsylvania, but why can't we help them here? Now they're so far, they're 6 hours away from their family. They're not able to see their family. Their family's not able to participate in this work. We need this work here. We need to raise our standards around what we're willing to accept as far as mental health services go.
So that when you say inpatient care, so not just like going for a session at Swanson Center, but
exactly
somewhere where they can stay full time.
For until they're better.
Okay.
I mean, so many of the children, especially that we're dealing with in system of care, that high level of need, if they go somewhere where they get the proper supports, they get better. And then they're able to come home and be with their family. But the supports that we have here are not enough to be able to do that. And it's not just LaPorte County. I mean, I think Northwest Indiana is struggling in this. But why couldn't LaPorte County be the ones that, really step up to the plate and have great mental health services here? We can't even get doctors to come here. Our mental health providers struggle to get people to come and work here, even when there have been times recently where other organizations have stepped up and offered significant signing bonuses. We still can't get people to come. We need to raise our standards around this and, do it right. There are other places around the country that are really making strides. And at United Way right now, we're involved in researching what that is, learning about the best practices. And as we move forward, we'd like to have a voice in saying, let's raise our mental health services standards. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Chris. All right. Any other comments? All right. Well, we're going to wrap this session up. The last session tomorrow is Wednesday at 6 p.m. These are lasting about 30 minutes, but you can go back and watch them on My Michigan City on Facebook. And again, if you would like a list of the inputs from some previous sessions, you can get them from the clerk's office. After we complete Wednesdays, we will do a second list of everything that we've received, at least the notes from these 3 meetings, so that you can access them from the clerk's office or online. Thank you for participating. You had something else?
Just one thing, Angie, could you send out the flyer for the grief recovery session so people could register?
Yes. So the grief recovery session, I'll post it on My Michigan City too and send it to the mayor's office.
Great.
And that's for December 9th.
Yep, 9 to 11 by Zoom.
9 to 11 a.m. on Zoom. I'll make sure we add that.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you for joining us. And again, tomorrow, the session will be at 6 p.m. for those that cannot attend during the day. But again, if you have any other inputs, feel free to send them to any of the council members or make comments on Zoom on My Michigan City Facebook page. Thank you.